Unscannable 33.
Keep your eye on that building, it'll be coming down.
Building is about to blow up.
Keep your eye on that building, it'll be coming down.
Building is about to blow up. Building is about to blow up. Building is about to blow up. Moving back.
Alright guys, sorry.
We are walking back. There's a building about to blow up. Still is a building about to blow up. Still is a building about to blow up. On flame, debris coming down.
Just in the last few seconds, another building, building number 7, one of the buildings in support of the World Trade Center towers, has collapsed. This is no small building, as you can see, at 47 stories. It would stand out in most American cities.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Zie je vanaf boven gaan? Nee, je gaat vanaf onder.
Die gaat vanaf onder, ja.
Toch?
Ja.
Ze hebben gewoon kolommen weggeblazen. Er is nagesprongen.
Dit valt anders dan het World Trade Center.
Vind je niet dan?
Ja, je ziet het, de onderste verdiepingen gaan eerst.
Ja, en de rest zakt er gewoon in. Dus dit is controlled demolition.
Zeker weten.
Zeker weten. Er is nagesprongen. Dit is in opdracht gebeurd. Dat heeft een team gedaan van experts.
Maar dit is ook op 11 september gebeurd.
Dezelfde dag?
Dezelfde dag.
Dezelfde dag? Weet je dat zeker?
Ja.
Was het zeker weten de 11e? Totaal helemaal zijn.
7 uur nadat de World Trade Center naar beneden viel.
Ja? Hebben ze hard gewerkt.
Man, you hear this bullshit they be talking every day, man. It's like these motherfuckers is just like professional liars, you know what I'm saying? It's wow. Listen, Bin Laden didn't blow up projects. It was you, nigga. Tell the truth, nigga. Push knock down the tower. Tell the truth, nigga. Push knock down the tower. Tell the truth, nigga. Bin Laden didn't blow up projects. It was you, nigga. Tell the truth, nigga. Push knock.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from where the World Trade Center towers were. And it seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened during this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result. We know that part of the Marriott Hotel next to the World Trade Center also collapsed as a result of this huge amount of falling debris from 110 floors of the two twin towers of the World Trade Center. As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning. We see these huge clouds of smoke and ash, and we know that behind that there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline, a symbol of the financial prosperity of this city, but completely disappeared now, and New York is still unable to take on board what has happened to them today.
Jane, I think many of us, when we heard the news, perhaps on the radio earlier today, were completely flabbergasted by it and just couldn't comprehend it. I mean, it almost sounded too far-fetched. I was wondering what it's felt like for you being in Manhattan. Well, unfortunately, I think we've lost the line with Jane Stanley in Manhattan. Perhaps we can rejoin her and follow that up later. Across America, citizens are trying to come to grips with the of what has happened.
Yeah, I did about 20 wars. I spent a lot of time in Northern Ireland, which was a war of sorts, wasn't it? A lot of time in Beirut, the Iranian Revolution, attempted coups all over Africa, the war in Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, and so on.
In 2001, you were also, I believe, you must have been there when the September 11th attacks occurred.
Yes.
What was your experience of that?
I was in the theatre, actually,
really?
On the South Bank at a matinee. And I just got it because I'd done the morning programme, and got in and listened to the PM programme, and I thought, you know, you're trying to piece together what was happening. It just sounded absolutely incredible. I was just staggered by it. And I went in as usual the next day for my shift, you know, because they don't rush people in and change everything usually, because it's important to keep continuity, and the story of that kind is going to be going on for so many days. You know, you want to keep people rested and refreshed.
Sure.
So I didn't have anything to do with it on the day.
Right. Because we did come across some interesting things to do with World Trade Center Building 7 that collapsed on 9/11, and basically sort of claims that the BBC had reported that building in advance of its actual collapse.
I don't know that. I haven't heard that one.
Right.
I mean, the BBC is a big organisation. I suppose it's possible. I'm surprised I haven't heard it.
Have you heard of World Trade Center Building 7? Or no. Okay. Because I mean, we've seen footage of yourself reporting the collapse of that building, and that has been time coded as 23 minutes in advance of its actual deterioration. You may remember Jane Stanley.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know she was a reporter there. Yeah.
On September 11th, you were in BBC World Studio.
Yes.
And the news came in. I think you were the first not the first, but you said, we're hearing reports now that the Salomon Brothers building has collapsed. Do you remember?
I don't remember it, no.
Right.
My memory is not my strongest suit, and there was so much going on. I really don't remember the sequence of events. Yeah.
Well, basically, this is. I'm glad to talk to you because we're not here to antagonise you. But basically, this building was a 47-storey steel structured building, the Salomon Brothers building, and it collapsed roughly about 23 minutes past 5 New York time on September the 11th. And it was...
I wasn't in the studio, I'm sure, that day. I didn't go in.
Not on 9/11?
No. As I said, I was in the theatre in the afternoon, and then we drove straight home, and I came back for my shift the following day. That's my recollection.
And in I think it was about 2006, it emerged, this piece of footage, actually of you and Jane Stanley. And a lot of people said, hold on a minute. In the video of Jane reporting the collapse of the building, you can actually see the Salomon Brothers building behind her.
Well, this is all news to me. I'm surprised.
It would have been later. I guess it would have been later for English time.
Oh yeah, now it's coming back to me. Yeah, of course, because at that stage I wasn't doing the morning; I was doing the evenings on the World.
That's right.
So I went with my son to the theatre, heard it on the radio, and then went into the studio. You're quite right.
Yeah.
And I was on that night. You're
That's
quite
right.
Yeah.
Now we think our interpretation of it was because this has caused such a lot of controversy. The editor of BBC World had to come out and make a public statement as to why it was that the BBC had reported on air the collapse of a building prior to its actual collapse. And the second reason why it's so controversial is because to this day no scientist or engineer has been able to provide a plausible reason for this building's collapse. And in fact the National Institute of Standards and Technology report states that even the most plausible scenario is highly unlikely. So a lot of eyebrows were raised. There was a demolition expert who looked at the building and said this is controlled demolition. He looked at the collapse of World Trade Center 7 and said without a doubt this is a controlled demolition.
This sounds so significant. I'm just amazed I didn't know about this.
We can, I mean if you like, we can supply you with material information about this, because I think from your perspective it would be good, your time coming out, it would be good to know about this, because this is one of the anomalies of 9/11, and that event was so significant that it deserves further investigation.
That's potentially very interesting.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. I'm sorry I can't enlighten you. I mean, gosh, I didn't realise. This is completely news to me. I don't know how it's passed me by, but it has.
Could we send you some information on it by email?
Yeah, if you like.
Yeah? Is that alright?
Yeah.
Because really, for your benefit.
Yeah, I'll give you an address. You can send it. So is there no official explanation?
No, none at all. In fact, the National Institute of Standards and Technology were due to publish a report in 2007 as to why the building collapsed. And they've had to delay it until 2009.
And what did the BBC statement say then?
BBC statement, the editor's statement, which is online, said
They've lost the tape.
Yeah, they lost the original footage.
I sense that you think there's a conspiracy here, but you might be right. I sense that you think there's a conspiracy here, but you might be right. You might be right. You might be right. You might be right. You might be right.
Unscannable 33.